And now I just wanted to hand over to Terry from Dialog to basically take us through the overview of the field service capabilities, which is one of the new areas of Dynamics Suite. It was based on an acquisition which Microsoft did called Field One about 12 months ago.
Yeah,
about 12 months ago.
Yes.
And so Field One acquisition rolled into the Microsoft Suite. I think a lot of you hopefully have sort of heard about field service, but haven't necessarily seen it, haven't necessarily heard about all the capabilities and some of the use cases here. So Terry's going to take us through that, because he is very experienced in the field service area.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, my name is Terry Ryan. I work for Dialog, and Dialog has been working with Field One for nearly 2 years now, about a year prior to the Microsoft acquisition. No such thing as a free lunch. So Dialog's been around for a long time, fairly large private company here, gold partner with Microsoft, and we're represented nationally, about 1,200 people. So, and we've got a very large presence in Canberra here. What is field service? Basically, it enables companies to deliver the customer experience in the field while hopefully maintaining efficiencies and minimizing costs. Field service management platform should incorporate a number of areas: routing, scheduling, mobile application, and be flexible, and for the partners, communication capability and very good reporting. A lot of those are actually very well supplied by Dynamics CRM, the underlying platform that it's built on. It started life out as an add-on for Microsoft Dynamics CRM, as called Field One, and last November that was purchased by Microsoft, and it's now fully incorporated into Dynamics CRM, and it's called Field Service. Now, before I go into the actual live demonstration, one of the things that we found a little bit confusing at first was just how it all hangs together. So the core component for the field service is what the application calls a work order. We find that everyone has a different name for this. It could be a job, it could be a ticket, it could be an inspection, all sorts of things. Basically anything that a group of people who are out on the field moving around may be doing. But the basic component inside it is a work order. It's used to coordinate and schedule resources and activities. It can be used for different types of work, such as maintenance, installation, repairs, prevent inspections. The work order contains all of the information that the person who's going out to do the job needs to do the job. So it's the description of the issues, the work to be performed, where they've got to do it, the products, parts and services that may be needed, tasks or steps to follow, and other things such as priority, duration, skills needed. Can contain a lot more than that, but those are the basic elements of a work order. You need to know what it is and where it's going to be done. So the key components here are the job order type. You've got unlimited capability to make those up yourselves, the priorities, the territory. Then it's going to say where it's going to be done, what's going to be done, what and who's going to do it, and the who is going to do it as well. So all of these areas here are linked to the work order. Now most of them are fairly obvious. So you've got the product, you've got the actual services, you've got the service tasks that need to be done, and the skills. The one thing that's not obvious is the concept of the incident. And the incident is like a template for a job. So if you've got a job that is, let's say it's the major service for a machine, a mining machine, a digger. A major service may involve so many products. It may mean that the certain parts of the engine need to be changed, certain tests need to be run. You can set that up as an incident, and then you can reuse it. You don't have to build the jobs time after time, and I'll show you that when we go into the application itself. But the idea is you can have an unlimited set of these templates set up, and when you create a new job, you just attach this template. It's going to bring in all the information needed for that job, the tasks, the products, the steps that need to be done. Okay. The underlying process inside of the field service is this. You've got the orders. They come in from somewhere. The orders get created. They can come through, obviously, mail, phone, telephone. They can be integrated from another system. They can also come from what the field service calls an agreement. So, if you like, the ones coming in from the order source are, in a lot of cases, ad hoc orders. Somebody rings up, it's broken, they need somebody out here to fix it. The agreement is recurring work orders. So you've got a contract and it says you need to go and do maintenance on this on a quarterly basis, on a weekly basis. And you can choose how that recurrence works. You can attach it to a contract. And you can, what will happen is if you say I want something to be generated every fortnight, it will actually create work orders ready for you to schedule. So it handles quite well both types, the ad hoc work orders and also recurring work orders. Then there's the scheduling. Once the work order is there, you've got to apply resources to it, you've got to give it a time, you've got to allocate it to somebody. Once you've allocated it to that person, it's then going to appear in the case of field services, it then appears out on their mobile device. So you've created the work order, you've scheduled that work order. You can have multiple schedules for a work order. There is a separation between the work order and the schedule. So take an example of what they now call groups. We used to call it crews. You may be sending 4 or 5 people out for that one work order. They're a crew, right? They all may go to the same place, they all may go to a similar place, they all may be there at the same time, or they may be staggered one after each other. So they would all have an individual schedule because they've got a schedule. Each individual in that case has got to have a schedule. They need to know that they've got to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. So if you've got 4 people in the crew, then they're all going to have an individual schedule for themselves. You can also schedule resources and assets. So the truck is a resource as well. So you can also allocate schedule block, schedule time to a truck. Because when you're looking for resources, you need to know, is the truck in use? Is that person busy already? And the schedule board lets you do all of that. Then obviously, once they're out there, the field service person completes the job. He's actually saying, and the concept inside field service is all about changing the status. So the work order, the schedule starts off as unscheduled. Then when he goes out there, he may say he's travelling to it. Then it may be that he's started the job's in progress, there's a problem, it's on hold, the job's waiting for some other resources, then he's completed the job. And he goes through all of those stages. You can put in as many stages as you like, you can have sub-stages. All of that information is tracked inside the mobile solution and comes back into the CRM. So he will go through all of those steps. You may even, and I will show you examples of some quite complex processes that we've done for different clients out on the mobile device where they are forced to go through certain procedures. They've got to put the traffic cones out first. They've got to take a photograph of them. All the safety and compliance, they've got to do it in a certain sequence. Once the job's completed, generally there is some sort of review at the end of it. Not necessarily, some people don't care, they just, a couple of the people just want to actually hit the button and print the invoice out on the spot and give it to the client, they're done. But in a lot of other cases, they've hit the completed, then it gets reviewed internally by the dispatch person, and finally it pretty much always involves some sort of integration. The system will actually produce the invoice out of the box. If you hit completed, the process will then actually generate an invoice. And also there is usually some sort of integration, some sort of update of the stock control, because out on the job he may have consumed X number of items. And it does handle stock control. It lets you handle what's in the vans. It lets you handle transfers between vans. The guys can even, if they're on site, look up and see where's the nearest van to them that may have something that they need. Right? One of the great things about this system is what you're trying to do is make sure that people do their jobs first time. The industry average is around 73% jobs get done first time across a wide range of industry. So if you've got 20, 40, 100 people out on the road, and there's 27% opportunity to make sure that they're armed with all the information they need to get that job done the first time. That's a huge saving, a huge ROI. Microsoft used the statistics. Why they're very interested in this is that there's more field service people in the States than there are salespeople in the rest of the world. So that's why they've taken a great interest in this. It's massive. Okay, so now I'm just going to swap over. Field service is an integrated part of Dynamics CRM. Now I'm not going to go into CRM too much. I'm assuming that most people here have got some familiarity with Dynamics CRM. So you've got the sales module, you've got the old service module, you've got marketing. The two new ones here are project service and field service. They do work together. At the moment, the link between those two are, if I've got resources that I'm scheduling for my field service, then they're also the same resources that are being used inside project services. And our understanding is the plan is that that's going to be brought together even more closely. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go into the work order. Basically, I'm just going to step through one of the work orders here. So, as you can see here, I use this environment here for quite a wide range of demonstrations. So, at the moment, we're talking to a client who has got the contract to do lots of repeat work for somebody like Woolworths. And so we just brought in just some sample data around all of their jobs that they're doing. These are the components that are inside the field service. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to step through the work orders and the schedule board and resources. It does deal with company assets, as I said. The way they use company assets is if you use or sell a component, you have the ability to actually add that to the client as an asset. And that in turn can then be used inside agreements to create recurring work orders. It uses accounts and contacts, handles time off requests from the mobile field service people, does handle purchase orders, purchase order receipts, purchase order bills, stock transfers, adjustments, set up as many warehouses as you like, return to manufacturers, return to manufacturer receipts, return to vendors, and then there's various other extensions that are being done. It also has the routing engine, and I've got the routing engine, but that's in beta at the moment. We're testing it, and basically the routing engine will let you, I'll be showing you tonight the scheduling assistant, but basically the routing engine, once you've got your rules correct, will let you set up a number of rules and set it so that it runs every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and it's going to try and attempt to keep rerouting as things change. It's in beta at the moment. It did work quite well when it was under Field 1, but obviously they needed to make sure that it could scale to... Alright, so we're going to go in now and have a little bit of a detailed look at one of the work orders. This this one here. So this work order here is open unscheduled work order. Okay, so out of the box, when you create a new, there's a number of ways you can create a new work order. As we said, there's you can create brand new, as you'd expect. It allocates work order number. You set your service account. Now that's the location they're going to go to. You can have a separate billing account, and it's always going to start off by saying that this is open unscheduled work order. It's not going to be scheduled till we actually put it on the schedule board. You can have as many sub-statuses as you like. I'm not using sub-statuses here at all. What we can do here is in one of the demos, they wanted to know about SLAs and time to meet when, in this case, they've got 9 days and 5 hours to complete this work order. You can set up a wide range of different types of incident types. We've got this incident in here. So what we've done here is we've attached an incident, which is this template I was talking about. And what that's done for us is it's actually provided, there's a number of other settings in here. We can set the estimated time, all of that information. We can put pricing and costing against it. A lot of other settings here, including these areas of time promised and time from promised and to promised. All of those would get used when you try to set up resources for a work order like this, or use the auto routing. What the incident has done is it's automatically inserted a number of set of tasks here: prepare, initial, install, self-service, photograph, finish job. They've got estimated times against those, which gives you the total time for the job. It may have given us, it's given us a particular product that's going to be used inside this service work order. I don't think there was any services attached. There's no services attached. Okay, so having set up that work order, the next thing you want to do, and I'm going to show you how to do this way, is use the scheduling assistant to go in. And now what you want to do, having set up the work order, you now want to look at who you've got to do the work. So I can set up real-time mode. What that means is if I can get all the guys out in the field to keep their GPS on their mobile devices, it will actually know where they are physically, and it will do its calculation in terms of travel time, etc., etc. It will do its travel time based on that. Otherwise, it's going to be doing its travel time estimations based on, I know where you started from, home, I know where you are now, and I know where this job is, right? Because there's a lot of unions that don't like insisting that they keep these on. You can set up the duration, you can ignore the duration, set up the travel time, allow it for overlapping. I can set how far I want to look for these guys, and I can set a range of days. I can also set skills and territories. Now, I've only got territories showing in this, but I'm saying I want somebody from the Melbourne territory on this. And I can also set up the different resource types. So what am I looking for here? If it's a subcontractor, I could be using contacts. If it's a user of the CRM, i.e. they're all fully licensed, I could be looking for users. I could be looking for a truck or a hoist or a lift. That's the equipment. I could be looking for an account, which is a subcontractor. I can set up groups. It may be that there's a traffic group. There's 3 guys in a truck. Right? So it depends. And I can also state inside the incidents when I set this up, these are the resources that must be used for this work order. So trying to keep it simple here. Hopefully somebody will come up, and if not, I'll have to probably extend the time. Adam has come up. Okay, so what they're saying there, the first time that Adam's got free is the 23rd of the 9th at 9 o'clock. Estimated arrival time, estimated distance, and estimated travel time. So it's calculated that information from me. And if I want to keep repeating, I want to actually, like if I had a list that came down here, and I wanted to add another guy and another guy and another guy, I could just schedule and do. I'm just going to schedule this to Adam. I'm now going to go, I'll stick inside this one because it seems to be working. I'm now going to open up the schedule board. So the schedule board is really the core to the system. Inside the schedule board, I can have multiple schedule boards. So I've got one for Woolworths, I've got a Victorian, Australian Technical, Hire, Transport, and I can have as many as I like, and you're only limited to the screens you want around the place. I can also do the filtering by various groups, so I can set the resource type. So if I only wanted to look at users, then I wouldn't be seeing the trucks and these centres down here. These are groups, that's equipment, that's a service centre, these are users. So I can control what I see on the schedule board. I can also control the territories, so if you've got different dispatchers living and working in different parts of the country, they would obviously set up their schedule boards to suit themselves. If I go and look at the Victorian one, I'm going to have obviously a different set of filters in there. So down here, I've only got the Victorian filter set up. I can also control what resources I want to see on that. So again, they may be working on particular territories. Okay, so if I go to the 23rd, I can see that job that I scheduled. I can also see that little black line, right, which is the travel time. So that's telling me what the travel time is there. So anytime I hover over anything on the board here, I get the details coming up, and I can of course control what's in any of these panels. I can change those. I can also get here map view. So this map view, if I click on this, it's going to take me in. It's telling me that this has been allocated to Adam. If I drop down the legend, I can see Adam, that's his colour, right? Just go to the roads. And as I go out, I can see that he's got a number of jobs. So those are Adam's jobs. I showed you how we use the scheduling assistant to schedule that job. I can also schedule by going, well, if Adam's going here, I want to give this job to Adam as well. So I can drag it on here, and I can schedule the job that way. And then that one, it'll allocate that to Adam as well. I can also, down here, I've got a whole set, this is my whole list of unscheduled work orders. I can also go and drag these up here and schedule them to somebody else as well. Okay, so having scheduled this job, now Adam should be on his mobile, and I'm now going to go into the mobile device. So what I'm using here is I'm using the laptop here. It's a Surface, and so I can use it as a tablet. So this is the Windows version of it. I will show you on the iPad another more complex version of the mobile field service that I'm showing you. This one is out of the box. So we scheduled them for the 23rd of the 9th. So it's this one here. What this is giving, now obviously I could have this filtered. I'm seeing all the work orders here, right? Obviously this would be filtered so Adam was just seeing his, or the crew, if there was a team leader, they wouldn't be seeing all of everybody else's work orders here. He should be just seeing his own. So I've got the work order here, and what I'll do is I might just double click on this. Okay, so there's a number of different views you can have here, but basically all of this information you're seeing on the screen here, you can choose how much or how little you want to actually pass over to the mobile users. So the first thing that he's going to do here is he's going to update the status. So he's got there, he's changing that job to be in progress. Now as soon as he syncs again and saves that, as soon as he syncs, that's going to come and change the colour back on the schedule board. So the scheduler is going to know of the different statuses as they're occurring. Okay. Now you can have sub-statuses. We've used sub-statuses in a number of different ways. Some of the things we've used for sub-statuses, we don't want to automatically shove it out to the people in the field, because sometimes you actually want to use this system to do resource work planning. You want to pitch it a few weeks ahead and say, right, how many people do I need? And so you can do this simulation on creating all of these work orders. You don't want them to go out the door. So the other thing is, a lot of people do want their work people to be able to, their field service people, to be able to accept or reject the jobs. So you're actually pushing it out there as it's now scheduled, and the next thing that they have to do is, in the sub-status, is say, I accept it or I reject it. Okay, so there's a lot of different uses for the sub-status. Okay. Most of this is just standard information that came straight off the work order. This is quite an interesting and very useful. If I say I want to follow up here, what it's actually going to do, this work order was called 00125. If I say I want to follow up, and this is used, somebody gets there, they find out that there's more to be done, or there's another piece of work to be done, they click on the follow up, and that will actually create a linked work order, so you get a 00125-1. And the reason for that is there may be reasons why people want them linked together for invoicing purposes or contractual purposes. That's quite a common requirement as well for most people. Okay, so I'm inside, I can use the map to, I can get directions using the map. A lot of the time, the capability of what you can do with the maps depends on your device, and it's getting more comprehensive all the time. Over here, I've got the information about what I've got to do. So on this one here, it's saying that prepare initial work site. Well, I've actually already done that one. So I'm going to open up the next task, which is basically install self-service terminals as per specification. And I may have to take notes on that. I may have to take a photograph of that. Smile, everyone. Yep, very good. Okay, and then I'm going to say that I've completed. Now, you don't have to have, this is just out of the box here, right? So the way it is with the default is this percentage. Most people actually want the tick boxes and the little buttons, and I'll show you a version of that in a minute. Okay. Okay, I've got some other work order products. I've already said here that I've used one product. It's worth $500, and I'm going to work my way down through this. And if I want to take signatures, I can take signatures. It depends. We've also got things like barcode readers. We've got credit card readers that you can attach to it. Again, this is just out of the box. Okay, so he's basically done this work order. So I need to go back now, and I need to sync this. Now, the system will work offline. It will let you do all of those things. The only thing it won't do is it won't update the people who are back looking at the schedule board.
they're not going to see till you come back online and sync. And then all of that information will come back. Now what I wanted to do while we were in the mobile one is I just wanted to show you a much more complex version of that on the iPad. This is for a group who are actually out there inspecting all of the pits around Australia for the NBN, right? And they've got quite complex work that they have to do, and basically they get given the work in batches from Telstra, and then they have to work their way through each of these work orders. So I'm just going to open an example one here, and I'll just spread it across the screen. So this is, they've got to go and they've got to do a replacement on the pit down here, and they've got to check the dirty toe is like, is it in good condition, or do we have to do loads of other work? So if they do their yes or no. Soil contamination, is there some follow-up on these areas? Then they've got to go across and they've got to do the dial before you did, which is the DBYD. And the other thing they have to do, which is one of the things I wanted to show you because it's quite a complex, it's this form, right? Very, very complex form with lots of checkboxes and lots of ticks they have to do. So basically what we've done here is we've set this up so that they can go through all of the components here, and the way they described it is they want to tick, flick and skip, i.e. the absolute minimum amount of time and work that these people have to spend on this application, even though there is a hell of a lot of a hell of a lot of questions and answers that have to be done. Okay, and basically all of this is meant to replicate the ability to take all of this information in. So if anybody wants to have a look at that in a little bit more detail, but that gives you an idea of the capabilities of the mobile solution that's attached as part of the field service here. Yeah?
The customization you did for the mobile, is that driven by configuration side of CRM, or is that
it's driven by, as part of the license for field service, you get the Resco Woodford toolkit. And that's very, very similar to the way you design forms inside CRM. You go down, you pick the entity, in this case it's the work order, or it could be the product, or a particular form if that's an entity, and you do the drag and the drop, and then that's published for the mobile through the Resco system.
And everything works offline on that basis?
Everything works offline, yes. So you can fill all of these in. Obviously it's not going to come back into the database still until you come back online.
And manages conflicts between what's been edited on the primary source or CRM over what's been managed out on the field?
I would have to assume so, yeah. Right? Now, if you're going to ask me how it's done, I don't know, is it first come, first served, or?
Resco has a configurable conflict resolution.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the toolkit is in there, and it's really very, very similar to the way you design forms inside the CRM or even AX Studio. And that is, quite a complicated system that we've done on that one, and it's working very well. We've got about 300 or 400 people out there all using it. So that area that we just wanted to cover off, I'll cover off a couple of the other areas now. So going back into the field service, just touch on agreements so you've got a sense of how the agreements work. I'm just going to pick one of these. So this is an agreement that is set up. There are a number of booking setups inside the agreements. And you can have multiple. So what happens here is this speed advisory sign requires a monthly service. So they've rented those signs you see in the road, and there's got to be a monthly service. So what they've done here is they've set this up, the booking recurrence, they've set it up on a monthly basis. So these are the choices that you have inside here. You can set it up daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. You can set it on particular days. You can have a range of recurrence. Those ranges of recurrences, the ranges we saw earlier in the work order around the first day and last day promised. You've got to keep those ranges a little bit open once you start trying to use the auto routing, because if you don't, if you try to tie everything down, what will happen is you just won't get anything auto routed because it can't fit things in. It needs that sort of grease between them. So they're very important once you try and get those rules set up. And what that does, I think it's there, and you can also choose how many days in advance, maybe it's the main screen, how many days in advance you want the work orders to be generated. So is it work order settings? I can't see it. Sorry, yeah. And so what it does is it then generates a set of booking dates for you, and they will only appear so that you can actually add them to the schedule board. So if you say, I want these to come, it's a monthly service, I want them generated 5 days in advance, then they will come. And if you put in a preferred resource, so if you say that you actually want this person, you can actually create them already scheduled. They will appear straight on the schedule board. The other thing that's so if we go to field service, I wanted to show you the other thing that's a lot of interest of people in this is the fact that you can do work orders. It keeps track of journals and timestamps, so that a lot of people want to be able to say, well, I don't want my people filling in timesheets anymore. So it will keep a journal list of all of those gaps between the status changes. So if he was travelling for 15 minutes, it will record that. If he was on the job for 10 minutes, it'll keep that. If he was on a break, it'll record all of those so that they all can have costs against them, and they can all be recorded for timesheets and costings of jobs down to that level of detail. And dashboards. I imagine you're all sort of fairly au fait with the dashboard, but here's an example of how it's making use of the different slices of statuses of the job. So the open unschedules are the blue, the open in progress are the purple, the open completed and closed projects, etc., etc. So all of that information is then available to you to use as you typically use inside Dynamics CRM for your reporting. I think that's probably about it. It's 6:50, so if anyone's got any more questions. Sorry? I had 2 more slides, didn't I? That's right.
Just a quick one. How does it actually fit into the sales process? Does a work
sure.
order come out of the back of an opportunity?
Yes. In fact, go back to that. That's the wrong one. So we go into the sales, and we go into the opportunities. Basically, there's two ways. It's got the convert to. So if I open up the. It's got the convert to work order. So you can actually take an opportunity and convert it to a work order. Convert to work order is already there. And with the new project service one, it's actually got so much more detail inside the, so if we go to project service, you go to opportunities in there, and what that does is it gives you all of this extra. It's also got convert to work order there, but this has got all of the information about the product lines in there, and it's also got a whole area of quoting inside here that lets you then move over into project planning. So, and the same applies with cases as well. It's got the convert to case to work order as well. So that works, pretty well actually. But the beauty of this, the project services, is if you've got really complicated quotes, it will take those and let you track those line items, and as they're being progressed by the people through the project, it'll keep track of the time being spent on it, and keep track of all the costs against it as well. Right, one question at the back?
Yeah, you mentioned that within creating a work order you can schedule a resource, and the resource can either accept or otherwise. What screen does that resource need to have a copy of this, or does it done through an Outlook type meeting invite or something? Do you understand me?
Yeah, I do. So typically, if the resource is accepting and rejecting, they're on their mobile device.
Okay.
Right? So the work order comes through, and the simplest way to do that is they give them that sub-status, which says accept or reject. So I've scheduled you the work order, it's come through on your device, and you go, don't accept it, right? And that's it. That status will come back to the dispatcher, who's then got to do something with it. Now, if you're talking about integration with Outlook, that's very, very easy. If somebody wants to work on their Outlook, we can actually, very simple bit of scripting, and every time I schedule a work order, I can also create a task on that person's Outlook with a link so that they can go to and look to see what's inside the work order, and vice versa, because that's really quite important where people schedule on their Outlook. I'm off training for a day, and the assistant, the scheduling assistant that we step through there, would need to know that you're not available that day and not scheduled. So it works really well, keeping the two in sync.
Well, at the moment we're using the availability of users for contractors to look at their diaries to see when they're available, and then scheduling around that, but then giving them the final say to either accept the meeting invite or not. But however, if we can use this and they just accept or reject, that's great.
Yeah.
It's efficient and smart, yeah?
It is. Well, it is, and it's quite a simple thing to do, right? You could actually use, now the simplest way, we've done it a number of times, the simplest way is the sub-status. Give them a sub-status, they can, it comes to them, they go yes or no. Right?
Sure. But licensing requirements for the resource, just a simple CRM user?
If you want to use this, at the moment, it's a basic license plus the field service license.
But for the resource who just wants to accept or yes or no?
He
needs one of them too.
If they're receiving their work orders on here, then yes, it is on. Yes.
They need one.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is where the best application of this works is when there's a mobile field force doing multiple jobs per day in different locations, right? You don't have to have all those three, but that's where the best ROI is, right? And where they're looking to either improve their scheduling, their travel time, or completing the job first time. And last but not least is the real thing here is everything's there for most people's solutions. It's all there. It's there in the box. It's where people get into trouble is where they, we've all experienced this with CRM, where they try and replicate their existing system instead of looking at what this gives them and trying to work with what's there. Right? And really trying to keep that focus on a gap fit approach is definitely the most efficient way to do this. Right? So don't let people run away and start designing their processes independently of using the tool to help them do that, because they're just going to invent processes that are going to put in complications that in most cases are just not needed.
We're looking at using this for scheduling training with the users as well, so we can look at the user just like contacts, just as we can with users, and schedule them into the same thing and get their acceptance or otherwise as well.
Yes.
Without any extra. It seems feasible to be able to do that.
So you've got a number of existing CRM users, are they?
No, we've got a bunch of trainers who are
yeah.
users, and we have a number of people,
Right.
clients, customers who are contacts, and we wanted to schedule them to be at a particular location with our trainer or trainers for a set number of days, a set time.
So these are just your clients, these are your people you're training, they're your clients.
No, they're
Customers,
people out
they're
there.
customers,
We
yeah.
provide training services to high-end training services. Yeah.
Well, the third component of this is the customer portal. Again, it's another component inside this, and what it allows you to do is publish to a web, i.e. your customers, right? And so this is just a very simple example. I've published up to this customer portal the unscheduled work orders. Now that could be all of the training that you've got or happening or you want to happen, and your customers would come into this portal and they could pick. I mean, we're using this for people the blinds people who want to do the home, somebody to come round to your home to do a quote. They have a complicated backwards and forwards situation at the moment where they've got agents out there, i.e. your trainers, they've got customers who want to try and find a slot, and they're trying to make the two work together, and the way it is at the moment is even when they do pass it to their agent, they've got no way, if they lose contact with the relationship, they've got no way of tracking. Did they make the appointment? Did they follow up? Were they there on time? So what we're doing with them at the moment is we've got that schedule board, we're just pushing that up onto here so that somebody can go in and say they can see the gaps and they can say, oh, I'll take that 10 o'clock. Click, it's done. And so I would imagine you could do something very, very similar with this portal. You've got your trainers, you could display the availability, or you could display the schedule of courses, and people could come in and book. I don't know how you want to control it.
Well, it'd be confidential between groups of people with the same client. Typically 3 one-day or 4 5-day half days. Yes, and yeah, no, okay. No, that's great.
Like the home insulation scheme, isn't it? Home insulation.
No.
It's open now.
More like just more blinds. Yeah. So, any more questions? I mean, I'm happy to talk afterwards, but yeah, and we're finding it's getting a lot of interest. Very, 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 very useful piece of technology.
Just a quick one, I guess, with field services, no service portal or function yet. It's just you publish what you like out of CRM at the moment. So there's no, I mean, I know you've got field service exposed through that. Is that part of the customer portal now?
That's not now.
Not out of box. So it's, if you want work orders to appear, you pull work orders through. Okay. So you can't get a similar experience to what you can get on a tablet device through portal as a preformed.
Not out of box, just
Is that ADX Studio?
Yeah,
So
this is ADX Studio.
and that is
Is it on the roadmap?
Well, I mean, it's on the price list as well, isn't it? You can
I'm
actually.
specifically the field service capability within the portal and something like that.
Oh, right, okay. Well, it's pretty easy to do even now.
Yeah, that really that.
Take it 5 minutes over.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.